This is file 014. I'm opening it tonight because the ocean remembers even when the brass pretends to forget. Inside are a survivor's report, a blacked-out transcript from a closed-door debrief, and pages of a logbook that should have gone down with the ship. The year is 1917, early in the war for us, when our Navy learned there are things under the flag of no nation. The witness speaks for himself now. What follows is transcribed from the recovered pages and sworn statement of Quartermaster Second Class Elias Moran, USS Harbinger. We begin with the first legible entry. Recovered logbook, my hand, pencil that wouldn't keep an edge in the damp. 0400 to 0800 watch. Sea state 4. Wind westing. The bridge smelled of coal smoke, though we burned oil. That should have told me right then something old was walking with us. Something that liked to dress as what we feared. The captain said, "Fetch the night flag," then said, "Never mind," then asked me for the time. I told him twice, and both times my mouth said 0433. It was 0451 on the bridge clock, and 0442 on the pocket piece I kept from Gloucester. We had 3 times on that deck, and none of them agreed. The Harbinger was a mean little ship, all teeth and temper. I loved her like a bad dog. She had a way of punching clean through a wave and shaking her head like she'd been insulted by the whole Atlantic. The crew was new to each other, and some of them were new to the ocean. We were listening for U-boats with a new contraption, a bell-shaped ear the engineers called a hydrophone. You pushed it into the water and the sea put its gossip right into your skull. Most nights it was just whales and screws and that long underwater thunder that meant weather somewhere else. That night it had a hum in it. Not a tone, not a song. A hum that vibrated my teeth like the dentist's drill in town. And I couldn't have told you what a dentist's drill sounded like, but that was the word my head brought up. The radio man, Roebuck, said he heard a voice under the static. He said it was a woman speaking Old Church Latin. I know a bit of Latin from Mass when my mother dragged me, and this wasn't it. It was vowels pulled long like a net, and consonants that clicked like the teeth of the winch. I told him he was hearing the storm's bones rattle. He said storms don't ask you to come closer. We were making a triangular patrol, zigzagging to make a torpedo's guess worse. But after 2 legs, the captain had us hold steady a minute. He leaned over the chart table and traced a line with his finger that didn't match the pencil. West by north, 1.5 points. I looked, and what he traced was right into the bit of the chart where sounding stopped, and a little note said, "Depth unrecorded." The ocean keeps secrets the way a drunk keeps promises. We all know that. But a blank place on a chart feels like a dare. I went forward to check the bowlight and the cutwater, because the Harbinger had a trick of collecting kelp in a way that made us hum. There wasn't a scrap on her. The sea in front of us wasn't black. It was the gray of an unlit sky. Imagine the surface looks like it forgot the moon, and the moon forgot it. When the bow cut in, the spray tasted too clean, like it had no salt. I wiped it on my sleeve, and it left a pale smear like someone breathed on the cloth. I made a note of it. Captain said, "Rain coming?" I said, "Aye." But I looked up, and the stars were sharp as pins, the kind of cold you get when there's no weather for 100 miles. Then from below I felt a weight, the way you feel a fish take a trawl net. It came not from port or starboard. It came up from under, a tug that made the screws bite air for a second. The engineer rang up to say, "Did you ask for more?" We hadn't asked for anything. The sea had. At 0507, if the clocks mean anything, something began to glow under the bow. Not like phosphorescence you get when a school runs. Not that green milk. This was a lattice, points and lines, shapes folding over shapes. A geometry that would be a sin to draw in Sunday school. I've seen nets lay on the deck, and I've seen those nets dry in the sun. This was a net of light. It moved like it had a mind to rap. Transcript section. Debrief. Room B, Naval Station. Portions redacted for classification. Question. Describe the light again. Answer. Not a lantern. Not flares. It was down there. It arranged itself and then it arranged us. Question. Clarify arranged us. Answer. Bodies on a deck are so many pounds of moving parts. That light made every man take a place he'd never stood and then told the water which place to come up through. Question. You're saying. Answer. I'm saying we didn't choose who got taken first. We sounded general quarters not on the horn, because we were running dark, but with a heel. The captain put her hard to port to see if the thing under us would try to keep up. There's a way a wave piles when a ship turns hard. This time there was no pile. The stern tripped over something that didn't have a name yet. Men cursed because cursing is how you argue with what you don't see. I went hands and knees because the deck said so. The compass floated the card, and the card spun until it tore free and slapped the glass like a fish. Roebuck called down from the shack to say, "She's singing again." I told him we had no she aboard. He told me to listen, and I did. Every rail, every rivet, every bolt was humming a tone that made my eyes water. It wasn't a note so much as a pressure. You could feel it right behind your nose, the place where your head tells you you've been under too long. The engineer yelled we were making 13 knots on 10 knots of fuel. I say yelled, but we were all half whispering by then, because the ship whispered, and you don't argue with the pitch of a thing that's bigger than you. The lookouts had their eyes on the water, and then one of them put the glass to the sky like he expected to find direction there. He said there were gulls ahead. I told him you don't get gulls that far out. Not at that hour. Not that keen. He said they weren't gulls. Not the way you think, and then he put the glass down and vomited in a neat stream without bending, like his body was trying to keep from noticing. I didn't take the glass. I didn't want what he saw to live in the tube and get in my face. We straddled the blank square on the chart. The captain said, sounding. The leadsman threw and the line ran smooth, then jerked like a finger caught in a door. He pulled back, bleeding. The line came in, cut clean, as if edge had separated it without fray. We stood around the end of the line like men around a severed rope on a gallows. Because you know a cut end has decided something about you. Roebuck called again, and the way he said my name, I knew he hadn't slept in 2 days, even if it had only been 14 hours. He said, Elias, she wants to know who is captain. I asked him if he meant the U-boat. He said, not German. Not any. He said, she is using the word they use in the book, Regina. Only it's not the church use, it's the old sea use. The one the fishermen talk when they don't think the priest is around. I told him to pull the fuses. He said there were no fuses to pull anymore. She was in the wire. I've seen tricks. I've seen men scare themselves into seeing a whale and shoot at it. I've seen a wave take a man's boots and leave his feet. I've seen fog act like it had fingers. But this was new. The glow under us tightened, and for a moment I thought I could see a shape. A long dark with a fin. Only the fin wasn't above or below. It was where directions meet. If a thing can move through the way a clock thinks, that was what it was doing. It turned like it had more than one hinge. The captain got calm, and when a man like him gets calm, you know, either everything will be fine or nothing will be. He told the gun crews to stand clear, because he wasn't about to drop a charge into a net he didn't understand. The Harbinger had 2 good guns and a lot of bad habits. One of those habits was when she got scared, she yawned. You could feel the hull expand like a lung and then shrink. The first time I felt it, I thought I imagined it. The second time, the engineer swore he saw the boiler room bulkhead bow and return. The third time, the water came up white around the forefoot and scanned along the plates, like a white hand looking for a hold. Recovered logbook page marked 0609, ink smeared, partial. Strange stillness in the air despite wind. Taste of metal on tongue. Mr. Penrose reciting a prayer under breath. Captain ordered no man to speak a woman's name aloud. Said, keep your mouths pocketed, because words are bait. Roebuck whispered anyway. I struck his name. The light beneath is making a shape like page torn. We ran for 10 minutes and moved nowhere. The wake lay behind us like chalk that didn't smear. A school of something boiled at the edge of the lattice, and when the boil hit the grid, it resolved into points that matched the pattern and then extinguished. Not like fish dying, but like candles upended. The bosun crossed himself. He has a tattoo across his knuckles, says, hold fast. He held, and the ship unclenched, and then clenched again. The captain said to ring full astern, and then full ahead in a cadence, to see if a change-up would spit us out. The screws answered like obedient dogs. The chain in the locker slid 2 inches and sighed. The thing below us matched every change as if it had hold of the keel and was walking us. There's a dignity to a ship when she chooses her speed. That dignity was gone. We were being set. At 06:16, a fog rose, not the kind that rolls. This came up in columns like organ pipes and connected until the pipes made a room where the ceiling was as low as a prayer. The fog had a smell like pennies in a mouth. Men put their palms over their teeth without knowing they were doing it. The bell on the forecastle rang one clear note even though no one struck it. When it rang, the lattice of light flickered, and the hum turned to words I didn't know I knew. I lifted the phone to the bridge and said, "What do you hear, Captain?" He said, without turning, "I hear the order I would have given 3 minutes from now if I had not heard it." Then he hung up and gave it, which was to bring the bow 5 degrees into nothing at all. We turned into nothing at all and found a curve that put us parallel to a long black that moved under the gray like a spine. It is hard to tell how big something is when the sea has it. I can tell you, it was bigger than the Harbinger and more patient. The men who had been in the whale fishery made a sound I'd only heard when a net came up empty, and the owner stood on the quay and the winter was already halfway spent. That sound is a vote against hope. The fog sang. I say the fog because I could see it pulse where the sound came. The pulses were slow, and they were not in any measure I would dance to. But if you have ever felt your mother pat your back to make you sleep, and if your mother had been the ocean and she had wanted you to sleep forever, that is the rhythm of it. Roebuck said into the radio, "Harbinger to any," and a woman's voice answered on every frequency we had, and some we didn't. She said, "You've come far from the shallows." She said, "Captain, your name is—" Transcript redaction. 3 lines. The captain said, "That is not my name now." Then he took off his cap and put it on the chart like a marker and said, "Elias, draw me a way out." I would have drawn a door if I could. The chart was damp and my hand was shaking. I drew the only honest thing I could draw, which was a circle around nothing. He nodded like I'd told him the truth when he already knew it. He told me to hold the circle steady in my head, no matter what I saw or heard. He said if you hold something a long time, the sea must decide whether to break it or carry it. He meant the ship, but I thought he meant me. The first man went over the side at 06:24. He was on the starboard rail, and he didn't jump. The water reached up and took him by the boots and rode him off the deck like chalk wiped by a sleeve. He didn't scream. He had time to take a breath if he'd wanted. He didn't. The bosun hit the general alarm and the captain knocked his hand away because the alarm is a kind of prayer you shouldn't pray in the wrong church. We watched the man slide, and we watched his cap spin like a coin and then go flat and then be gone. I wrote his name in the margin and then scratched it out because the page hated it. Second was Penrose, who had been praying. He said, "I hear my mother," and for a second he smiled at something none of us could see. And then the deck pitched down under him, not like a wave, but like the deck hated him. And he ran in place, and then was not. I hate that I thought the word not. Not is too clean. He went in, and he did not come up, and there wasn't a bubble. I cinched my belt to the rail. The captain took the wheel himself. He said to Roebuck, "Tell her she may have the ship if she leaves the men." Roebuck said, "She does not recognize the difference." The captain said, "Then we make her learn it." He ordered the engineers to flood the forward trim to make us bow heavy and then blow it to make us kick. It is a thing you do when a ship's nose must argue with a wave. We did it, and the thing below us adjusted like we had asked for a different song, and she obliged. When the light beneath us brightened, the fog dimmed, and in the dim you could see lines press along the hull. Not eyes, not mouths, just impressions like fingers through linen. They ran along the plates like they were reading us. The rivets around those places got sweat on them, beads that weren't water and weren't oil. A sailor put a finger to one bead, because men cannot help but touch the wrong thing once. He yelped, and the skin on his pad came away as if he'd licked a winter pump. Debrief extract, partial, interviewer, change noted. Question: Did you attempt explosive separation? Answer: Charges were set for U-boats. We had 3. Captain wouldn't drop them blind. Question: Why? Answer: Because when you drop on a thing you don't know the name of, you tell it your own name first. Question: That doesn't make sense, sailor. Answer: Sir, with respect, it's the only thing that has. When the sun should have come up, the sky lightened like paper held to a gas lamp. It never showed a disk. The ocean around us settled to a slow rising that was not a tide. The captain breathed once like he hadn't since the lattice first showed. He told me, "Elias, now is when we go through." "Through what?" I asked. "Through anything," he said, and he put his hand on the wheel and the muscles in his forearms stood up like ropes. He said, "On 3. He said, 1. The fog inhaled, and the humming turned to a word I won't write. Not because of superstition, because it is shaped like the inside of a shell, and if I write it, the paper will curl. The deck lurched, and the screws snarled, and the Harbinger took one clean step where there was no step to take. It felt like standing on a church floor, and the floor decides to be a trapdoor. The sea fell away, and then rose exactly as far as it had fallen. In that instant we were weightless, and in that instant I saw her. I will tell the rest if you ask. But before you ask, promise me you will not try to draw her. What takes a ship will take a pencil, same as a keel, if you give it the right line. I am not a learned man. I can tie knots with a blindfold. I can smell a norther before the gulls quiet. I can keep a bearing with a cloud. I cannot tell you the shape of the Queen of the Abyss in words that will not bend your head. But I can tell you this. She is not a beast the way a whale is a beast. She is an idea that learned how to wear water like a dress. She is patient. She is old, and when she looks at your ship, she sees a pattern she can move into the places between the ribs. We were a chord and she played us. When the ship came back down, she did not meet the same sea she had left. The sea under us had become a floor with give, like thick weed over rock. The glow pressed to the keel, and from that press came a set of knocks like code. Roebuck shouted numbers. The captain shouted course. I shouted the names of the buoys off Gloucester Bay, because a man will call home when his mouth is taken away from him by fear. The men who were left took positions they had never trained for and looked like they had done it all their lives. That's what I meant when I said the light arranged us. It put men where they would make the worst sound if they went over. It tuned us. The captain said, "On 3, again." He said, 1. He never said 2. The wheel spun under his hands and he let go because he'd have lost his fingers. The Harbinger's bow rose like a hound scenting a thing on the ridge. The fog broke, and the columns fell like cut masts. For a breath the ocean showed me a hole in itself, a calm circle that wasn't calm at all, just still because it had found its end. We were headed for the center of it, and in that center something waited with the patience of stone. The calm circle ahead was not water the way I knew water. It had no waves, no dimples, no sign of breath. It was a surface like glass set flat, and it was blacker than the night we'd left behind. The captain leaned forward on the wheel and whispered, "Hold." I don't know if he meant the ship or us. My hands were shaking so bad I had to pin my logbook with an elbow just to keep the pencil from rolling. When the bow entered the circle, the Harbinger did not cut or splash. She simply slid, as though we had left one medium and entered another. The sound changed. No wind, no screws, no engines. Even our boots lost the ring they make on steel. Every man stiffened, because silence at sea is worse than a storm. Silence means something has taken your measure and is waiting to tell you what it found. Then came the singing. Clear now. Not just a hum or a pressure. Words. The men heard them different. One swore it was the voice of his dead sister. Another said it was the Psalms. I heard it as if the fog itself had grown vocal cords and was telling me things I should not know. The message was the same for all of us. Surrender your vessel. Surrender yourselves. The sea has chosen. The captain barked a laugh, but there was no humor in it. He ordered the gunners to ready the bow piece. The men hesitated, but he gave the nod. The gun swung down into that circle of black. We fired one shell. I watched the recoil slam the deck, saw the smoke, heard the brass ring, but no report, no explosion. The shell vanished like it had been swallowed. The circle rippled once, and the glow under us brightened. The Harbinger groaned like something had pressed on her spine. Roebuck yelled into the set, pleading with anyone, any station, any ship. He bled from one ear as he shouted. The reply came. A woman's voice, strong and low, answering on every frequency. She said, "Why do you resist?" She said, "I am the Queen, and your hull is my harp." The captain tore the phones from Roebuck's head and threw them down. His voice dropped to a whisper. "No more names, lads. No more words." He meant it. He thought even a word could be bait. But Roebuck wasn't finished. He fell to his knees, chanting like he'd lost himself. The fog pulsed to his rhythm. When the captain moved to stop him, the deck shifted. It pitched as if the Harbinger herself had decided Roebuck was no longer her crew. He slid across the steel like a toy and into the rail. Then the water rose in one neat column and took him without a splash. The phones, still crackling, were pulled over with him. The light under us flared again, and for a second, I swear I saw her face. Not human, not beast. A face arranged out of shifting light. Beautiful in a way that made you sick to look at. Her eyes weren't eyes, but patterns that rotated like compasses spinning. When she looked through us, I felt my name peel away from me. Elias Moran, the boy who'd hauled nets off Gloucester, was nothing. I was a note, and she was tuning. The ship lurched, and men toppled. Penrose was gone, Roebuck gone. 3 more pulled screaming into the black. The captain bellowed for ballast shift again, trying to shake us loose. The engineers obeyed, though their faces looked hollow, like puppets carved too thin. The Harbinger bucked, and for a moment, the fog broke open. Through that rent I saw the ocean as it should have been. Gray chop, sky above, gulls in the distance, salvation right there. Then the fog closed again, and we were blind. The captain gritted his teeth and ordered the charges readied. We had 3, meant for U-boats. Men hesitated, but he shouted them down. He said, "We drop blind, and we tell her we bite back." His hands shook as he signed the order. We dropped the first charge. The sea did not roar. The concussion was there. We felt it in our bones. but the sound was strangled. The glow pulsed brighter. Then we heard it. Laughter. Not human, not right. It came from the hull, as though the steel plates themselves were mocking us. The captain swore and ordered the second. Before it left the rail, the Harbinger pitched hard. The deck split men like dice tossed in a cup. I grabbed the rail and prayed. The charge slipped from the sling, rolled, and fell overboard. The glow dimmed, then flared so bright it blinded me. Question: did you complete the third drop? Answer: no, sir. The captain would not waste it. He said 1 shell left means 1 chance left. And maybe the Queen wanted it, and we would not give her the satisfaction. The captain's voice went low, ragged. He said, "Hold your posts, we ride it out." Then he whispered something I caught only because I was nearest. "She cannot have us if we do not consent." The fog thickened again, and then the Queen rose. I swear she rose. A column of water shaped like a woman's form, towering above the mast, eyes spinning with light. Her voice was not in the air, not in the radio, but inside our teeth and skulls. She said, "You are mine already. I give you mercy if you choose." The captain spat on the deck. He roared, "Harbinger chooses no queen." The ship groaned in response, as though answering him. That's when the keel buckled. Not broke, not yet, but bent. You could feel it. The ship sagged like a bow strung too tight. A sound like every nail being pulled at once filled the air. The men screamed. Some leapt, thinking to swim, but the water swallowed them before they broke the surface. No splashes, just erased. I clung to the rail, my vision blurred, my lungs burned though I had air. I thought I saw shapes in the fog, faces, hands, whole crews from other ships drifting there, mouths open in eternal hymns. Were they dead or kept? I don't know. The captain gripped the wheel, knuckles bloodless. He said, "We go through, not around, not back, through." He spun the wheel hard and shouted, "Full ahead!" The engines screamed as if they were tearing themselves apart, and then the circle widened. The Queen's light folded outward like a flower opening, and in the center was nothing. Not black water, not fog, nothing. A hollow that promised no return, and we sailed into it. Transcript section, debrief room B, continuation. Question: what did you see inside the hollow? Answer: sir, I saw the ocean stop. I saw waves hanging mid-crest. Spray frozen like glass. I saw stars under the water, as though the sky had dropped into the deep. I saw ships. Ships older than Christ, hung in that stillness. Sails rotted, bones of crews still lashed to masts. And I saw her, larger than any of them, watching us with eyes that had never known land. Question: how long were you inside? Answer: could have been minutes, could have been a year. My beard grew, my hands bled, time ran sideways. The last thing I remember was the captain's voice. He shouted, "Hold your names, lads, hold them, do not give them away." Then the light crushed in, and the world went dark. When I woke, I was in the lifeboat. 2 others with me, both dead. The Harbinger was gone. The sea was calm, as though nothing had happened. No wreckage, no oil, no smoke, only silence. I do not know how I lived. I do not know what price was paid. I only know this: she let me see, and then she let me go, and I do not know why. We come now to the final portion of Quartermaster Second Class Elias Moran's sworn statement, and the last of the recovered logbook pages. When I woke in the lifeboat, the sun was high. My lips were split, and my tongue was swollen from thirst. 2 shipmates lay slumped beside me, eyes open, skin waxy. I tried to close their lids, but the lids wouldn't stay. The muscles had locked. I took it as a sign and left them be. There was no wreckage, no driftwood, not even a scrap of rope floating. I had been at sea long enough to know the ocean always gives something back when it takes. But not this time. It was as though the Harbinger had never existed. No smoke on the horizon, no oil slicks, no gulls circling. Only a flat calm that made me feel smaller than ever in my life. The logbook was still lashed to my belt, pages soaked in bleeding ink. I do not remember tying it, but there it was, as though the ship herself wanted her story told. I tore pages free and laid them on the bench to dry. The sun smeared the words worse, but some survived. Enough for someone to know. Enough for someone to believe me. The dead began to change as the hours passed. The sailor to my right, Matthews, his lips moved like he was speaking though no sound came. His fingers tapped against the gunwale. A slow beat, as though answering the humming we had heard beneath the Harbinger. I slapped his hand. It stilled for a while, then started again. I lashed his arms down with line, but even bound he kept tapping, faint, against the wood. The other, Henley, stared at the sky without blinking. His eyes watered but never closed. At sunset, I thought I saw patterns of light flicker across his corneas, like the lattice beneath the ship had been burned into him. When night fell, those patterns glowed faint, like embers, until dawn. He was already gone, but something in him was not. On the third day, a fog rose again, though there was no wind and no warmth to bring it. The same metallic taste filled my mouth. I heard singing from the waterline, low, rising, like a choir underwater. My head swam, and my hands shook with the urge to dive overboard. The lifeboat tilted as though inviting me out. I clutched the logbook and screamed every prayer I knew until my voice cracked. Then the fog lifted, and a ship loomed. Not the Harbinger, bigger, British lines. A collier by the look of her. They hauled me aboard, the lifeboat bumping their steel. Matthews was gone. Henley too. Just me left, raving, soaked and clutching the book. The captain of the collier questioned me. I tried to tell him. His face closed as I spoke. He ordered the men not to repeat a word, said it was fever talk. They gave me water, gave me bread, and put me in a bunk. When we docked in Liverpool, men in grey coats were waiting. They took me to a room with no windows and asked their questions. Transcript continuation. Naval Station debrief. Pages marked black in original. Question. How did you survive when the others did not? Answer. I do not know, sir. Perhaps she spared me. Perhaps she mocked me. Perhaps I drowned with the rest and only dream I write this. Question. Do you claim this queen is an enemy combatant? Answer. She is no German. She is no nation. She is the ocean in a shape that remembers. Question. Why do you think she let you live? Answer. To tell you, to make me your message, so that you would fear her too. At this point, the record is smeared, much of it blacked out. Only fragments remain. Unauthorized transmissions. Lattice signature repeating across channels. Recommend suppression under Article 17. Zone nadir to be marked and avoided. Crew records amended. Incident filed as presumed lost to torpedo action. I was released weeks later, handed a paper that said I was unfit for further duty. No mention of the Harbinger, no medal, no hearing, just silence. They sent me home with a pension and the advice to keep my dreams to myself. But the dreams come whether I speak or not. At night, I hear her voice in the walls, in the gulls, in the harbor bells. She calls names that are not mine, but might as well be. The ocean near Gloucester has changed to me. Its tides carry whispers. Its spray tastes too clean. Sometimes I wake with my feet wet and the logbook open, though I swore I locked it away. Do you believe me? Does it matter? The Harbinger is gone. Her men are gone. But the Queen is not. She waits. She waits where the chart goes blank, where the water has no bottom, where silence swallows the guns and the hull and the names of men. I give you this record not to ask for help, but to warn you. There are queens older than nations, older than wars, older than our names for God. And when they call, even steel must listen. This concludes File 044. The ocean erases ships, but does it erase truth? Or does it keep it, waiting until the next crew sails too close? What do you think? The Harbinger's fate was a single curse of the deep, or the first warning of something our navies still hide to this day?